Welcome back, everybody. I am so excited to be with you right now. I had a wonderful day at work, and this definitely, for me, is quite a reward. Believe it or not, after a long day at work, I know it seems strange to say that it's a reward to be with all of you, but it truly is. First of all, of course, I want to thank you for coming back and for your time, your attention, your loving support, your questions, and your phenomenal comments. I can't believe some of the words that have been used and the very loving support that I've received. I'm truly touched in so many ways, and it's been quite an emotional thing for me. So I just can sum it up by saying thank you. I want to clarify one thing straight up. I do not have a Facebook account or an Instagram, so I am growing this channel organically by just having you as my viewers. I haven't even told my friends here that I've been doing this or my coworkers. So the views are coming directly from people who are choosing to be here. And again, I'm completely humbled and very emotional. So thank you very much. Please go to the tab right next to the video tab that says Shorts for more information. My shorts have been a way for me to express myself beyond just my words. I do not edit or splice any of the videos that I'm supplying. So if I trip over or misuse a few terms, please forgive me. I'm doing my best, and it's difficult when I don't pause a video and talk for 30 minutes straight. So thank you for the grace in allowing me to make occasional mistakes. Very soon, I will be supplying an email address that you can reach out to me with any questions or concerns or direct dialogue that you don't wish to put in a public comment. Also, I have been asked what I do currently for work, and we absolutely will get into that. I talked with the CEO of the company that I help advise and curate for here, and it's going to be full steam ahead very, very soon. So please stay tuned for that. I do sell on eBay, but I don't want to promote it on this channel just yet. I'm using this for a slightly different reason, and I'll get into that in just 1 second. So just bear with me and let me ease into all of that information as well. I do area antique shows, and I also sell in local antique malls. So I want to be clear on that as well. Nothing to hide here, but I'm just pacing myself with my information on what I'm comfortable with, and I appreciate your patience. I truly do. I don't watch very many sellers or people on YouTube. I usually use it for educational, historical programs that I find to be interesting. I do like to watch Sotheby's and Christie's auctions of everything under the sun: decorative arts, modernism, historical paintings, of course, jewelry and gemstones. So when I'm on YouTube, it's just for personal information and for gain in information that would make me smarter or more agile in my everyday work. I was watching a YouTube personality. She's brilliant. She's smart. She probably doesn't know that I watch her as much as I do, but she had a video out on the intention of a YouTube channel. And at first I was kind of pissed and annoyed by the fact of like, well, why do you have to have an intention? She's 100% correct. And my intention here is to be raw and authentic, number one. I did this so that I could educate, that I might inspire, and also entertain and have some fun. Right now, I want it to be an escape from real life for some people. With everything bad that's going on, I hope that this is some sense of solace for some people. If that makes sense, I hope that's okay to say. As time marches on and things happen, I may change or alter that intention just a little bit. And I believe that the universe and God will control what's to come. My shorts, as I've mentioned before, the short videos that I've done have given me a glimpse of heaven. And I know it's odd to word it that way, but I've been able to share so many things that I've owned that I haven't touched in decades. So I appreciate you allowing me to share and to set that to music of my choice. Finally, before I start this video, I know that I'm a bit much. I get it. One of my nicknames here is Hurricane, and I have many other nicknames. If I'm not your flavor, if I'm not your speed, I just ask you to graciously turn the channel and make room for someone who I need to be here. And I know that sounds a little maybe snarky, but I have to tell you that the people that are here, it makes me a little emotional. The people that are here have been so loving and so polite and so kind that I'm overwhelmed is all I can say. If you feel like you're going to leave a nasty comment or you want to start some sort of drama, please just go and take it somewhere else. I've had nothing but positive and kind, and I would love to keep it that way. So thank you so much. I've been on this planet for 45 years, and I've heard it all, so you truly cannot get me going. I will promise you that. And thank you all again for your time. As to tonight's video, I wanted to discuss something that was, again, easy for me. And you might say buttons. Why buttons? And clothing buttons. And I say, why not? I say, why not? As an artist, I have realized that making items is sometimes difficult, and making them in a miniature size is even more laborious. How I started into this button world, I was approximately 12 and a half or 13 years old, and I purchased my first button for 25 cents, and I was instantly hooked. It was just a carved mother of pearl with inset cut steel, and 35 years later, here I am completely still fully invested. I do button shows, exhibitions, lectures, and I was a member of 3 local collectors guilds. I've also been featured in several publications. I have purchased many complete button collections that were nationally recognized, including Inez Wingrove, who was a descendant of an Ohio president, and Peggy Tyrer of Buffalo, New York. As to the collection in its whole, I have boxes and boxes completely full. And tonight I'm going to show you approximately 17 cards of 625 cards. And they're not really cards. As collectors, we call them trays. The first one that you're looking at is the jeweled card that I chose to discuss. And this, basically, the ages go from around 1820, 1830 through around 1935, 1940. And many of these, as you know already, contain sapphirite glass, they contain sapphire, they contain Czechoslovakian glass, cut steel, paste set in sterling silver, turquoise set with rose gold and marcasite. Some are just glass and crystal, but each has just so many beautiful things going for it. And the one that you're looking at right here is moss agate and crystal, rock crystal set in sterling silver. And here's another very, very, very large sapphirite glass. And I'm going to do a video on sapphirite. Many videos have been done already, but I'm definitely going to do Jason's version of sapphirite glass. And then this one is called a Stuart crystal. That's from around 1780 to 1790. And it's set in sterling silver. And then there's a little gold pallion on the inside with, it looks or appears to be someone's initial. And this card is again an example of why I started. Here's an arts and crafts one right in this very corner, and that one also has sapphire glass inset in it. I want to apologize for the video being shot in this direction, but the cards did not fit inside of my light box, so this is what I have to work with this evening. So if it cropped it in your feed, I'm very, very sorry for that, but just bear with me on this video and I'll get some things figured out for the next one. This card is an incredible assortment of gay 90s buttons. They were made in 1880 to 1890. Again, many featuring Czechoslovakian glass jewels, cut steel. Many are 3 or 4 layers. So there are several layers to each button and extremely complex. Most of these were not worn just on a shirt or a coat. Most of these were used on capes or cloaks at the time. So a heavier fabric and a much more dramatic appearance. There may only be 1 or 2 on a given outfit. And again, these were mounted down to keep them safe and to keep them sound. Some of my favorites on this card are very obvious. I love this one. It actually has a piece of Leo Popper glass, and this is also Leo Popper glass. Some people only focus on sapphire or saphrine or opaline or opalite. It's all just glass, technically. Doesn't make one more important than another, but Leo Popper, for some reason, has been left out of the conversation on YouTube, and I'm not quite certain why. But I will definitely bring Popper glass to the YouTube crowd and let you know why it's historically important. This one is Czechoslovakian glass with a cut steel border. Again, look at how ornate and how beautiful each of these little cut steels that resemble marcasite are hand faceted, each steel, and then it's riveted down. So a hole is drilled and then those are hammered in place. Just such the labor of love for just a mere clothing button. It doesn't seem possible to us in today's day and age. Again, I'm known for my Bakelite collection, and I want to assure you I'm not a one-trick pony in any of this. So Bakelite is only a small portion, just the tip of the iceberg. It's just a material. I have made jokes that anyone who doesn't like Bakelite is not a friend of mine. There is some truth in jest. I really love Bakelite. It makes me happy, it's colorful, it's whimsical. Just think about the person that had a turtle for a button, or that had a green pepper for a button, or the person that had a fish for a button, or a rooster, or a carrot, or a compass inside of an anchor. Just think about the person that had these on their clothing. And one of my favorites is the screw in the corner. Just amazing detail, and again, just plastic. And here is another version of the green pepper that's just fantastic. So again, very colorful, very whimsical. I have approximately 30 cards or trays of Bakelite buttons. And I forgot, I have to back this up for a second. This one's by Martha Sleeper. It's very well known that it's by Martha Sleeper. And I will get into some information on her in future videos. She was a movie actress turned Bakelite craftsperson. Enamels in both buttons and jewelry have always tugged at my heartstrings. Color, design, craft, labor, loveliness, elegance. I can't say anything more than just to show you and let you experience them. And these are all glass enamel. There are none that are acrylic or new enamel or cold enamel. These are all fired in place. These are all brass, and most of them date between, the height of this was between 1865, 1875, into right around 1900 and 1910. I was questioned by a lovely subscriber, what is my favorite time period? And I'm sorry I can't answer that question right now. I have changed my loves and my passions for time periods over time, I would say that I focused mainly on 1900 through 1918. There was something about that time period that resonated with me as not only a person, but also a collector. And I do have some interesting stories to tell in the near future on why I think I have a connection to that time period. I'm very well known for designs under glass. When it comes to button collectors, they know that I love them. So essentially what you're looking at here are designs that are painted and inset from behind a piece of large glass, and then it's set into a brass collar. This one is thought to be by René Lalique. It's a poured glass rose inset in a brass cup, but the rest of them are just glass pieces that are then very carefully bezel set into brass. The designs underneath are just beautiful. This one is an Art Nouveau original. This one would be around 1905 to 1915. It's in fact a reverse painting of an abstract flower. And then silver foil is inset from behind to eliminate that beautiful, beautiful depiction of a flower. And again, these are just glass inset into metal. This one right here is just one of the most unusual that I know that is in my collection. It looks like cut steel on the outside, when in sad reality, that's just embossed inside the glass. So that's just a design right inside of the glass, made to look like cut steel. But what a beautiful facsimile, in a way, or representation that's faux. I took approximately 30 years to come up with this card. It's considered mother-daughter. So essentially what you're looking at are Victorian picture buttons that were the large size is the mother and the small size is the daughter. Just imagine going through button tins over 30 years and trying to amass the large version and then the small version. And I wish I could go in a little bit closer on some of these to show you some of the detail. But again, here's another cut steel, and this one has a cut steel accent of an architectural building element, and also the elegance, the pure elegance and the fineness of a crescent moon that is then riveted to a brass and nickel button. And this may have been from one of the famous operas at the time. Some of these were reminiscent of also artists or writers, also stories and fables. Fables or old wives' tales, and then also Grecian, Roman, historical designs that were of famous people or famous entities, if you will, but such a history of just beautiful design and incredible craft. And to think that these were only on clothing. I show you this card because I have a very large holding of Bethlehem pearl buttons. And these are from Bethlehem. And the age of these on this particular card is right around 1920, 1930. You can find them earlier, but you can also find them later. We find a lot of these with pinbacks, or they're made into brooches because they were much more sellable as brooches, but just incredibly carved and pierced, so careful. And can you imagine these being on an outfit and surviving and not being broken or missing a point or missing something? The backs of these, or the shank system, if you will, is a simple loop shank. So it's a brass loop soldered to a brass plate. Then a hole is drilled, and that is countersunk into the button itself. Because I wanted to share that I have been in some publications, I brought out the Buckeye State Button Society. This was our summer manual from 2013. There are some beautiful, shall I say, publications, and this is one of them. Interesting that it has on here Peggy Harry, 100 Years Young. I was in the guild with Peggy, and she was the most elegant and beautiful and classy woman I had ever met, besides my mother. Peggy was just this beautiful, beautiful wealth of knowledge. So I was approached to do an article on the buttons of my collection from the arts and crafts period and also Art Nouveau. There is slight confusion on the difference between Art Nouveau and arts and crafts. There is some overlay of design aesthetics and materials. So I did discuss that in this to make people understand that there are transitional areas. So even as experts, we are sometimes unsure of if it's exactly an Art Nouveau or an arts and crafts piece. And then this was brooches from my collection. There were 5 of them featured, and I talked with, this was clearly an Art Nouveau brooch, and then this is clearly arts and crafts, but then you had a couple that were transitional that basically resided right in between the 2 time periods. So there has to be some grace and some understanding, even amongst experts, on dating things and talking about things and design aesthetics and materials used. This card is included in this because I used to be so drawn and so seduced by picture buttons, Victorian picture buttons. Again, they were to document historical people or stories or operas or cultures. And I loved them very much. But then as time went on, I didn't find it much of a challenge to find unusual versions. So I liked to be challenged with my collection, and I liked to be pushed. And unfortunately, as time went on, picture buttons, I just kind of lost interest. But then when I found this card in my collection, I regained that fire. I instantly thought of, look at the designs, and on this one in particular, you have the head of Mercury or Hermes, and then you have these stalking panther border embossed, and this is a Paris back button. So the back mark on this is, it says Paris, and it's got a 3 kind of spoked back panel. But again, these are very large, so probably not on a shirt or a dress at the time, but likely on a jacket or a coat, if you will. One of my problem areas in the collection are escutcheon buttons. And escutcheon buttons, the term escutcheon is basically used on furniture. So it's the back panel on, say, the hardware of a dresser. That would be the escutcheon that touches the piece of furniture. Escutcheon buttons are a brass, a nickel, or a mixed metal applique that goes over a surface, whether it be mother of pearl or celluloid or shell or abalone. Also, green snail shell was used, and pinna shell was also used. And I'll get into how you can tell the difference between mother of pearl, abalone, pinna shell, and I'll go over that. This one was, of course, one of my favorites, a front view Native American on smoked mother of pearl. Then you have a front view Saint Bernard with his barrel to save his faithful friend from freezing to death. Alphonse Mucha design, clearly Art Nouveau, but an escutcheon mounted on mother of pearl. Sorry that a few of these are out of focus, you guys, but just bear with me because I don't want to start this video over. I've made it far enough. So thank you for your grace again. I appreciate it. And then this oversized, beautiful, glowing pearl shell, and then a silver-plated escutcheon. This one is a very difficult one to find. I'm going to change hands here for a moment. This is Ring Around the Rosie. It's an applique. I'll zoom in just a little bit to get that a little bit more clear for you. Oops, sorry about the exposure problem there for a second. And then you have a child riding a lion. And then this one just got me, and it's been talked about by many collectors. It's a saxophone playing cricket, and he's on pearl shell. Whimsical, bizarre, interesting. And again, could you imagine a child fascinated by playing with that on their mother's jacket? I know that I would play with it constantly if that was on my mother's clothing at the turn of the century. And then we have a griffin with another shaped piece of steel, a horse, just on and on in regards to beautiful, beautiful, wonderful, just an amazing card. An absolutely amazing card. And again, something that I'm so thankful that I own and have been able to put together. And just so you know, it took me approximately I would guess on this particular card, it took me approximately 4 or 5 years to come up with this, and then to lay them all out, punch the cards, and I forgot there's a secret, and each button is then wired on with pipe cleaner on the thinner shank system and a simple telephone wire on the more thin shank system that can actually hold that in place on the backs. So this is just to secure them in place on the card itself so that things stay safe and sound and in order. Sometimes I'll put an inventory code on the back, and then that way I know what I paid for each piece or where I found it when I bought them. In the good faith of competing at national shows, you get certain points for competition. It's a very staunch and strict system of competition. And yes, people do compete with clothing buttons. So you would have to be regulated on size. You would have to be regulated on number. You'd have to be judged on uniqueness, materials used. There's a point system. And I decided as an artist to start to create my own line of clothing buttons. I started this in 2004, and I wanted to do things that hadn't been seen before, of course. I started with this. It was my first attempt, so I had a Bakelite button that was plain from the 1940s. I sawed out a sterling silver cat out of sterling silver sheet, put 2 rivets on the back, or posts, if you will, and then I drilled out the Bakelite piece and I riveted the cat down. This was my second attempt, an oriental stylized lotus blossom, again, pierced out of sterling silver by hand, and then laminated down to one of the early antique mother of pearl buttons. The color play on that, the push and pull of the surface, very much so a big attempt for me in the second button I created. Then I moved on to this one, which is a flower blossom. I inset a tiny little opal in a bezel, again, sterling silver pierced out by hand. I think the camera is not focusing because it's fighting with the glare, so I'm very sorry for that, but I will get some more videos up soon of each card by itself, so just bear with me. Ocean waves in a Japanese style, again, sterling silver, sawn out by hand, inset over mother of pearl, an octopus. And the reason for this is it was a special commission. A woman had to win top prize, and she said, make me an octopus. I did. She took first prize. A phoenix, pierce work again, so that's just a sheet of sterling silver that's been pierced out by hand and then overlaid onto mother of pearl. Again, it just keeps going and going and going. The one that I wanted to make for myself, because I was going to compete and then I never did, my bull terrier's name was Zito, and we all know that. So to really win if I competed, which I didn't, I backed out at the last minute, I used a plastic button, so that was 1 point. I put on an escutcheon, was a 2nd point. I used a bull terrier, which is a noted breed, and you can tell that's a bull terrier from a mile away. Shout out to my friend Timeless Jules by Deborah. I love you, girl, because you love bull terriers. We know the story there, sweetheart. And any bull terrier lover, any dog lover is definitely a friend of mine, even though I've never met you, sweetheart. I decided to put his name on a leash, and then I put the leash around as a border, so that was another point getter, and then I used text, which is another point getter, and then I used a movable part, which I would have absolutely placed in that competition, but again, I didn't want to compete because it took the fun out of it for me. You know, it kind of ruined it. I don't consider any part of this a competition. I just consider it joyful and happy. And when it became a job or a competition or who's better than someone, I just wasn't interested. I completely malfunctioned. That was not my place, and it's still not my place. This card is, it's incredible. I'm sorry to bump the stand here. Long day at work and a little clumsy right now. These are diminutives. These should have been lost to time. I can't imagine these surviving, but they did. They're diminutives. They are under a certain size. We have these gauges. I forgot to bring it out, but we do have gauges to overlay on these cards just to make sure that they're truly diminutives. But again, a mixture of materials. We have designs under glass. We have foils. We have synthetic cut steel that actually are black glass, inset jewels, rock crystal inside of silver. These things, paperweights, miniature paperweights, lamp work, foils, a ribbon application. This is glass. It looks like fabric, but it's actually glass. Look how small it is compared to my giant catcher's mitts of a hand. These are tiny treasures that should have been lost to time. They should have been vacuumed up in vacuum cleaners in the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s. A ladybug, a calico, hand-painted accented china. Most of these are done by stencil and then hand accented with color. Paperweights, again, just an incredible array of diminutive buttons. And again, painfully wired on by hand. And I did all of these. This was my wintertime jobs. When I was snowed in, I felt like a 90-year-old woman just relaxing and chilling out by the fireplace and doing something that I love. Onto a card of glass that just makes me very, very happy. There are certain buttons on this card that are notable and historical. They are from Inez Wingrove's collection. Again, future videos, I may be able to get into Inez's collection and bring it to you since she was a descendant of an Ohio president. She was a very important woman of important means, and I was able to buy her entire collection. So I hope I'm able to bring that back. On this card, again, we're 30 minutes into the video. I could talk about each button for a very long time. There's peacock eye, there's a raised fly, there's Venetian glass, there's paperweights. This is called a ting, Tingue, Tingue, ting, and it is, I believe it's Bohemian glass. I'll have to look this up to make sure so I'm not using a term that's not correct. This is also a ting button. Years ago, just this one tiny little button would cost between $125 and $200. When you get into other colors of tings, they could be $300 to $400, maybe even $500 per button. This is a radiant. Some of these buttons, and that's the one thing I want to thank you all for, that you haven't asked me to evaluate anything yet in terms of what I'm showing. I think that is one of the things that speaks to me the most, that you have not been concerned about values. You have not been concerned about what things are worth. And that is so incredibly respectful of my collection. I am so grateful for that. Eventually, I will do videos on evaluating, because that's what I do almost 24 hours a day at work. If that gives you another hint as to where I work or what I do, my job is to evaluate and to give estimates of value. This card, again, glass, Czechoslovakian. There are some Bohemian pieces. There are a few pieces of popper glass. There are some things that, again, as collectors, we don't customarily see in this great of number. I would say that this particular card probably took me, I'm going to guess it took me approximately 6 or 7 years to construct. The card that it's actually on, the cardstock that it's on, is embossed with letters. And it was an abstract saying on the card. I just felt that it gave some sense of authenticity to the card and to the reason of having buttons on it, if that makes sense. And I hope it does. I think I stumbled over something there, but it's all right. I forgive myself. Here is a Leo popper glass triangle. Again, very, very small. On popper glass, it has basically a keyhole shank on the back of it. Again, once they're not mounted down, I'll be glad to do a video on loose buttons so that you can see the construction on what to look for in the bags that you find at the thrift stores, in the bins that you find at antique malls. If you go to an auction, 99% of an auction out of an estate would definitely have tins of clothing buttons. I want you to be super smart. I want you to be Johnny on the spot. And I want you to be aware of what these things are truly worth so that you can make tons of money or start a collection of something that you love. Again, another card of my glass. I never stopped or based my collection on a material. Glass is colorful, it's very labor intensive, and again, to make some of these miniatures and to get some of the designs, some of the colors, and the textures underneath some of the caps on these, just absolutely remarkable. Again, some of these are diminutive and some of these are just considered small. You would have to overlay the gauge on top of it. The National Button Guild came out with a metal gauge that you can order online to then see what size buttons you have. It's very important to collectors because if you do make a mistake, they call it a measle, and they'll put a little red dot on your card, and then basically you would be disqualified from the competition. Again, it wasn't fun, so I never really wanted to be measled. I mean, who really wants a measle anyway, right? And then on the back of the card, again, labor of love to put these cards together. I had to plan out where each button went. I marked the cards, I punched tiny little holes, and then I go back and I wire them in place. Sometimes I will fuss with a card and move things around. Sometimes it just happens right away. And on these glass cards, it happened right away. I tried to balance the color, I tried to balance the size, and I tried to make them works of art that are able to be displayed. This is a card and a major accomplishment, and the reason for that is these are radiants, they're dewdrops, and I believe there's a third type that I've completely blanked out on right now, but these are all glass. They're between 1845 and 1895. They're all pre-turn of the last century, so they're all pre-1900, and look at the designs, and those are all underneath the glass. So they're all just trapped underneath the glass. And the radiant part of this is this does not have a design in the back of the glass. That little piece of teal glass on the reverse shines through the whole button and creates that effect. So that's not, if you flip it over, there's just a tiny little piece of turquoise colored glass as a drop that then radiates this design and the color through the rest of the button. Just incredible. Sorry, it's out of focus again. This is probably one heck of a messy video, but I just wanted something up for you guys to let you know another portion of this thing that I call a great big collection. And again, a very big challenge to get this many radiants in this good of condition as well. So again, just remember that finding these is definitely a challenge. It's not easy, but when you're going through buttons and you're looking through bags and you're sorting, please be very careful, be very mindful, and stay focused on some of the smallest things. In concluding, I have several cards sitting on my left-hand side, but I have to talk about these for a tiny little bit. These are Mughal Indian. It's considered a Raj set, R-A-J. They are under glass, and they are paintings under glass. And so you can understand the size. You can see the size of my finger right next to this. And then when you look at this, and I zoom in on this, and I hope I can hold it steady for you, these are painted virtually with, whoops, sorry about that. These are painted virtually with a one hair brush. So there's one hair that's on the brush, and it's true. And each scene is painstakingly hand painted. These would be made between 1830 and 1840. They are Royal Indian. And they are the, basically they're wonders of the world in India. And we know that building for sure. We're very familiar with that building, but a remarkable depiction and a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful scene. And then the most amazing part to me is on this one, and I'm sorry I can't hold this steady, but once you zoom in, you get a whole lot of shaky going on. There are people on the landscape that are in different clothing. Each one has a different outfit on, and the reflection of the pool reflects the sky and the building. The trees have actual leaves. The pathway has actual bricks. They painted actual bricks on the walkway. This one down here, again, the reflection in the water. I just want you to look and take it all in. I think human words at this point ruins how incredibly beautiful and special these actually are. Just incredible that they survived as a complete set. Very difficult to find. So I will fair warn you, you may find them, and it may take a whole lifetime, but they are out there. Again, customarily, inset behind glass, you know what happens. Water gets in behind, and then it ruins the painting, and the whole button is completely useless then. So to find a set of 6 was something that I had to take that leap of faith that it was something that I had to own, and each one on its own would make me extremely happy, but collectively, what a knockout. Just absolutely beautiful. On to the last thing that I wanted to share, because it's, again, an infrequent occurrence, but I wanted to show you because you might have an opportunity. When you see a box like this, when you see a tooled leather box with a beautiful clasp in the front, take the chance to open it and find out what it is. This was at an estate sale and completely forgotten about. And my, what a breathtaking and royal and phenomenal set. What you're looking at is rock crystal inset in sterling silver. And some of these are considered black dot paste. And some are rock crystal, so you'll see a small black dot from behind. I will get into black dot paste in a future video, so just bear with me on that one. I have a lot to say there. Like a big surprise, right? Me with a lot to say. Sorry, this is sterling silver. Remarkable, just a remarkable set of buttons that I got very fortunate at an estate sale when they didn't do their research and they weren't smart enough to know what they had. So again, I'm drawing, oops, I keep blacking out. I'm sorry about that. Please forgive me. They are just a remarkable set of buttons, and again, a treasure to own, but they're just historically beautiful, and I love them. So be on the lookout for things like that. A set in this condition, that complete, price per button is customarily, on the larger ones, it would be around 200 to 250, maybe a little bit less, but let's just say 200. And then on the smaller ones, around 50 to 60 a piece. You can't multiply that when you get a set like this. You can't just do an additive process for the total. So on these, I would say a fair price would be around, let's say, 900 to 1200 for the set. And again, you would just have to have an advanced collector. But isn't that what I said when I first started? Jewelry for clothing. It's just jewelry for clothing. This completes my video for tonight. Again, I have to stress how incredibly grateful, incredibly humbled, and incredibly encouraged you have made me. So I appreciate your time. I look forward to seeing you again. Please give me a few days to catch up on another video because I have a crazy busy week at work. So I appreciate you. And of course, you know I've got to end it by saying I absolutely love all of you. Please stay safe out there. Thank you and goodbye.